Hello, everyone. Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle.
Hello.
And it is May, and we are reading this Servant of Earth by Sarah
Very
Hawley. Cute little, tight little hardcover. It's like a tiny little size. I love it so much. I was
to
lucky enough
punch
to meet
that
her at a
book though.
Polycon. And I just noticed actually when I opened this that when she signed it for me, she drew a little silver dagger with
Little
blood
dagger.
dangling down, which is amazing. So, yes, this is a big time fantasy. It
So
appears,
on the like epic fantasy
yes,
front, even though it has, I mean, Sarah Hawley is the writer of witchy rom-coms and long long time member of like the romance community. Like
yes.
there's smooching in there. It's spicy, but it also is
Not fill
an
romance
epic cinema.
requirements. Yes.
Yeah,
We're hoping at obviously at the end of the trilogy that it will, which is how these things usually go. But as for this book, romance is not the primary objective, that's for sure. Also, we want to point out content warnings. She's very clear on her website and in the front of the book what they are. Some parts of this book are pretty brutal. I definitely recommend you read those content warnings first before you dig into it.
for sure.
So we start with Kenna. Kenna is our heroine. She wakes up from water leaking through the roof onto her face. It's the winter.
Different from a different spot than the spot
Yeah,
that she had
that already
already.
was. It's the winter solstice, and she's dreading it. Her people worship the Fae. She's dubious at best. That's what I wrote in my notes.
Well, she's from like I don't know the first or second paragraph. She's
Yeah,
like I
I
don't
don't
know
know
if
about
this
all that.
they believe like I
Yeah,
don't know if they deserve as much uh devotion.
right, as what they
And
get,
it turns out that her mom was very devoted to the
yes,
Fae, and
which
she
was actually
feels
like a
like
sticking point in it in the whole thing too. But yeah, so she lives in this shack in a tiny village called Tumbledown, next to a giant bog, and the other side
like
of the
it's
bog.
aptly named too.
Oh
Like
yeah, for sure. And the other side of the bog is fairy territory, supposedly, but nobody's ever been able to cross the bog to find out, and nobody's actually seen a fairy that's still alive. Like nobody that's alive that she knows has ever actually seen one, so she's not convinced that they're even like real.
thing
Um,
is that there's these like green lights that pop up on the bog every
yeah,
once in a while, and she's like, that's the only sign
that's
they
even a
are.
real
And
thing.
she's like, and they
Yeah,
are pretty, but
yeah, yeah.
they don't have
Um,
anybody.
and so her mom died 18 months ago and was still at her deathbed hoping to be like chosen, like saved by the Fae. And of course she wasn't. And so that made Kenna even more like angry about that stuff, basically. So Kenna goes down to the marsh to go collecting. It's kind of like fishing. She has her little net. She digs in these little mud pits and like pulls up trinkets and treasures and sometimes is able to sell them at the market.
Say that she also in that first chapter or in that expedition it mentions that she has found bones in there, and that's the bog that people try to cross to go to the fairy
Yeah.
territory. And so she's like, I am not convinced
No, she's like, I'm
that
pretty sure
these
they're all
people.
just dead. Yeah, for sure. And also, this day, the solstice this year is the solstice sacrifice, which is every 6 years. Four women from the surrounding areas, including her town, get chosen by the elder, but like supposedly with the Fae like guiding his hand randomly, choosing women who are going to cross the bog to go to Misty, which is the fairy land or whatever. And so she's very wary of it. She doesn't want it to happen to her, but she especially doesn't want it to happen to her only friend in the world, Anya. And they're both up for it this year.
Like a pretty well, I guess we should mention that Kenna is somebody who like she describes herself as unkempt. Like she just does not worry about trying to look good. She's got curly hair, and I feel her pain in that like she's like, you know what, this hair does what it does. I
Right?
don't care. Um we in modern times have great products.
Yes.
No, maybe she didn't have any. But she also like doesn't worry about her clothes. If she gets mud on it, she's like, whatever.
It's
It'll
part of
cover
the
up the
job.
stains.
Yeah.
It's old anyway. Like so
Yeah.
she's not the looker
She's a
of the
bit of a,
duo.
a feral girl.
She
And she
has
likes it
been
that
since
way.
she was a kid. That's been her rep, and she kind of leans into it.
Yeah, for sure. So that morning, right before she needs to leave, she decides to dig into the bog one last time, and she ends up pulling up this beautiful dagger. It's like bejeweled, and somehow it's clean, even though it's been
It's so weird
in
that
the
she
mud.
pulls it out and she's like, huh, you'd
Yeah.
think it'd be muddy or rusty or
Yeah.
something, but no.
No, it's perfectly beautiful. And she knows what it's worth. She's like, I could get real money for this. Like, get us out of here and never have to deal with this crap again, money. And so she's very excited. So she
And
wraps
she
it
like
up.
straps it to her thigh.
Yeah, she wraps it up and she sticks it like under her pants because she doesn't want anybody trying to steal it, obviously, because she knows it's worth a fortune. And she
But
goes,
like because it's the solstice, like people are gonna be visiting the town and whatever. And
right.
so she's like, this will be the best time for me to get the best deal, like the best money
Yes.
for this dagger.
And she does have a few other things she wants to sell. So she goes to her little secret hiding spot and she digs all her stuff out. And as she kind of crouches to like leave her hiding spot and the knife cuts her in the leg. And she's like, how did it, like, I had it all wrapped up. Like, how did it do that? And so she pulls it out. There's no blood on it. She is cut, but it's clean cut. And she's like, it'll be fine, but there's no blood on the knife. And she's
Pant
like,
leg also has like a little spot, or
yeah,
not her pant leg, her like skirt,
yeah,
but the dagger itself is like clean.
clean. Yeah. And she's like, that's weird. Okay. So then she kind of cuts her thumb a little bit because she's like, I want to see this, right? And the blood like crawls up into this groove in the center of the knife and disappears. And she's like, oh, this is some fey shit. Like, what is this, right?
It's magical. Like that's
Yeah.
not normal.
Yeah. And so she's like, well, hopefully I can get what I want for it. So she goes and she sells a bunch of her things, but she hasn't found anybody who looks like they could afford like the knife, so she hasn't brought it out yet. And then Anya
He
finds her.
thinks like it'll be better if we do it at night anyway, because then no
Yeah,
one will see that I'm walking around with this.
right. But of course that's after, the people are getting picked and she's like still worried about that. So Anya finds her. They've been best friends since they were little kids. Anya's parents recently died the previous summer in a house fire. And so she's been on her own and basically destitute and is worried she's going to have to marry to have a decent life, but she's always wanted to marry for love, so she hates the idea.
She's been staying with like some relatives, but those relatives are like, so you can't stay here forever.
Right.
Just FYI, like in case you were wondering,
Yeah.
we don't like you that much.
Yeah, pretty
So
much.
she definitely is like she needs to figure out a way to get out, and she thinks like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to get married.
Yeah.
But Kenna's like, I might have found a solution for our
Right.
problems.
Well, and so they discuss possibly being chosen at the ritual today, and Anya seems maybe like half excited, half terrified about the
Yeah.
idea of it happening. But Kenna is like, no, like we definitely don't want this to happen. Like, don't worry about it, right? And again, like you said, she's found those bones. That's all she can think about. When people talk about the women crossing the bog, all she can think about is the bones that she's found and being like, no, they're all dead. And so, they visit Kenna's mom's grave,
Anya's like it would get me out of here. Like
right?
it's an opportunity, and it
She's
could
like,
be nice, and she's like, "Ugh."
no, super not. So on the way to the temple or whatever, they go and visit her mom's grave. And then that's when you find out Kenna's dad left when she was very young. Um, and so there's hundreds of women waiting out around the temple. And the elder tells the history of the pact between the people and the Fae, which is 1,000 years old, to send the women to Misty every 6 years, and then the Fae light their way, like to get them across the bog. And all the names are in this like giant bowl, and he's basically just gonna pick four. And so he picks. The first one is Nora, who is she doesn't recognize from their village, but she's clearly a true believer. Like she's very excited about being picked. And then there's Fiona, who lives with this abusive father, who's like the wine vintner or something like that, and she kind of looks like she's
She has
okay
like a
with
black eye.
going too.
She's
Yeah.
yeah.
Bertha, who's another one from another village, who's dressed in rags and looks half starved, and she's like, "You're gonna send this girl across the bog, like she's gonna die." And the fourth pick is Anya, and Kenna literally screams, "No!" And
She's like, pick again. We're
right.
nope. And
We're wrong.
Anya's
Yeah.
like, shh. Like they're like have to remove her because she's
Yeah. She is like, doesn't want them to take her, but Anya says the Fae chose her and she has to go. And so basically, she's like, her only friend is leaving her, and she's like, hell no. I'm going to save her. So she's been through that bog her whole life, digging out her treasures. She has a stick that she uses to see like how deep stuff is. She's found so many paths through it. She's like, I'm gonna help them get across, and we're all gonna live. So, or we'll die together trying, basically.
Her thought is like, we're gonna weave our way through this bog, and then we're never coming back.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah, like we can't go
definitely
back to the village. Yeah.
but we're definitely not going to die. And she knows that there's like it makes me think of like the Princess Bride with the quick look in the forest with the quicksand where it was like she
Mm-hmm.
said there's parts that look like they're shallow and then you step in it and it's deep and it's
Right.
so there's like lots of ways to die in this bog. And
Yes,
she's going to
definitely.
make
Especially
sure
in the
that at
middle of the
least
night, like no flashlight or anything. Yeah. So, that night, as they send the girls into the bog, Kenna just takes off running. And somebody tries to stop her, but she kind of shrugs them off and like she goes. So she gets out to where the girls are. Anya is, of course, thrilled to see her. The rest of them, especially the true believer, is like, they're going to guide us. We don't need you. And she's like, don't care. Like, you do whatever you want, but I'm here.
Nora, ugh.
And so they keep choosing paths. They're going closest to the little green lights that are flickering. But they get to kind of a fork and she's not sure which way. And the dagger kind of like stabs her. And then this path lights up and she's like, oh. And so then she pulls it out and actually holds it in her hand so it can't stab her anymore. And she can still see the path while holding it. And she's like, okay, this way. And so they start going. And the closer they get, the more Kenna can see that these little green flashing orbs are like little beasties who want to kill them. Like they have these like gnashing teeth and stuff. And she's like, can you guys see that? And the rest of them can't see it. And she tries to get Anya to touch the knife so that she can see. And the knife like is like a thorn, like it pricks her. And she's like, okay, apparently only I can touch this knife. And so she just says, run. And so they all start running. And she hears the first girl
Oh,
get
dream.
screaming, getting eaten. Like it's horrifying.
Yeah.
And she
I
just
was
keeps
like,
running.
this is a horror novel
Yes. Yeah,
because
exactly. It is a lot. And so she just keeps running. And then she hears another one. And then she turns around to look behind her and Anya is gone. And
we're like holding hands and running. And then she's right behind me and she looks and she's not there.
and she's gone. And then the last girl that's left besides her, Fiona, runs up and almost knocks them both down. And she's like, "Where is?" And Fiona's like, "No, let's go. Like there's no time. She's gone, right?" And so they keep running and then Fiona gets grabbed and eaten too. Kenna finally makes it across. She like keeps running till she hits a tree line basically, and then she collapses, and then she realizes those little green orbs are still over the bog. It's like they can't leave like the bog. So once she was on land, like she was
It's
whoops.
okay. She made it, but everybody else, and she's so
Yeah.
upset because she's like, the only reason I even came here, what like my one job was
Yes.
to save my friend,
Yeah.
and now my friend's
Now she's
gone.
gone. Yeah. And so the knife morphs into like an arm cuff and goes up underneath her shirt so nobody can see it.
So the knife was doing like a little bit creepy stuff, but that I was like, what happened?
Yeah. It just like melted like more melted metal basically and then like turned into an arm cuff around her arm and she's like what the and then she looks up and she sees this goat and he says, well, this is unexpected, and she passes out. And I'm like, yeah, as one does. And so she wakes up surrounded by fairies and she is like remembering everything that happened and she just starts crying and they all look horrified by her crying. And so they all kind of leave and they're like, get in the bath. And so she goes and gets in the bath. A human servant comes in who doesn't speak to her, but helps her bathe, helps her dress. And then the fairies return and they lead her to the throne room, um, full of noble fae. And they're exactly like how she pictured they would be based on like old stories and stuff like that. They're all
Full
beautiful.
and shiny, and yeah, but also
And
not because once they start
yeah, but
like
it's just the
holding
surface.
court,
Yeah. And the
is
king,
that it?
Osric, is yelling at this
That's
other
right.
fae and who's like kneeling down before him. And then he orders this other fae to kill the guy. So this guy who's wearing black, with a big opal pendant, like kills the guy. Just like no expression on his face, no nothing, and then back to stand by the king. And she's like, what is happening? And nobody helps
Like
him.
these
Nobody makes a
people
sound.
are like sociopaths, all of
Yeah,
them.
all
Like
of
there's
them. Yes.
no, because nobody reacts.
Yeah. No, it's just like dead faced, all of them. So now it's Kenneth's turn before the king, and he says, how did you get here? And she says, I just saw a path. I don't know. And so he kind of looks to his people and he's like, Fey blood? And they're like, well, must be, but like clearly many generations removed. Like, look at her kind of thing. And
It's,
so,
it's one drop because
right.
ew.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, well, what should we do with her? Like, should she just be a servant like the other humans? Should we kill her? And this handsome
Like
Fae in the
he's like, oh, we
audience.
could kill her. That might be fun.
Yeah. Well, and he's like, this handsome Fae in the audience is like, well, I bet on her to win, and I was victorious. So like, I think we should keep her around. She's fun, right? And then the Fae man who had just killed the other guy leans over and whispers something in the king's ear, and the king laughs. And then he says, um, to the Earth Princess Oriana that he is gifting Kenna as a handmaiden to her daughter Laura as she takes on the trials. And everyone thinks this is hilarious. And Kenna doesn't understand the politics of all this, obviously, but
No, she knows it's an insult. Like
yeah,
she knows, like, okay,
yeah,
so I'm like, I feel like she's almost like, I've had enough experience with people looking down on me and acting like
right.
I'm a joke
Yes,
to
absolutely.
understand that part of it, but she
But she
doesn't
doesn't
really know
know,
what it means.
yeah, she doesn't really know why or like what the point of it is for him, like why he's doing it. So she gets herded over to this other Earth servant, Aladi, who takes her to Earth House. And
Kind
she's
of
given,
sweet, even
yeah,
though,
she is.
yeah.
She's very
And
nice
sh
and she's very informative, trying to tell her everything she can that she thinks she needs to know as they're walking. She takes her
you
to her
do like
room.
you learn pretty quickly, and without even like as sweet as she is, they
Yeah,
speak a little bit in riddles. So she's
yeah,
kind of like, yeah, so just but you're going to be a servant, you just have
yeah,
to help her with whatever she asks for.
right. And she's like, what
And
does
it's
that mean?
like,
Yeah,
and she's like, I get the feeling that she's not telling me what she's telling me, but obviously
yeah.
like
She
this
can't tell
princess
me
is
a
not going to
thing, but
be
she's trying
happy.
to tell me a thing. Yeah. So she's given the adjoining room to Laura, and there's like a magical clothing armoire that like puts out clothes for her.
I want this
Amazing.
so bad in my
It's so
life.
good.
Like you open it and only
Yeah.
the thing you're supposed to wear is there. Like the perfect outfit for your day is
Yeah.
just hanging there.
It's just there. It's what you need. It knows what you need. And so then Ality explains all the Fae houses and the immortality trials that are about to take place, which test Fae virtues to prove that they deserve their immortality and their magic. And if they fail, they can be stripped of all their magic or but still be immortal, or they could die. And so Kenna, this is like a lot of information to take in all at once. Um, and she will serve Laura through these trials, like you said, whatever she needs, like you'll get for her, etc. So,
She should like help her, which
right.
Kenna's like, okay,
How am I
I
supposed
don't know.
to do that? Yeah. So she falls asleep, and wakes up later to the sound of like banging around next door. And so she goes and knocks on the door and introduces herself to Lady Laura, and she is less than pleased to have her there. It does not go well. And so she goes back to her room and then she hears something smash, like she threw something at the door after she walked out of it. And so she goes into her bathroom and she is thinking about Anya and she just like cries for a long time. And afterwards, she decides that she's just going to do her
She
duties
thinks
the
about
best she
Anya
can.
too because there's like cosmetics and like hair
Yeah.
tonics and things there. And
Hmm.
she's just like, I don't even know what to do with this. And Anya would have loved it so much.
Yeah.
So
It's really sad. And so she's like, I'll just do my duties the best I can until I can figure out how to escape. Like, that's my plan. So she goes walking around. She finds Ality. She tells Kenna she can explore any of the public spaces, but any outside entrances are warded by the king. And also, you can't go to any of the other houses. Those have their own wards. And
Like, and
so,
like when they were going into Earth House,
yeah.
it's beautiful. There's water. It's like there's like water coming down the walls.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, yeah, it's warded. Anyone who's not invited in or who doesn't belong here will be like drowned.
The
And
water
she's
just
like,
like comes
oh.
in. Yeah.
So it's like every house has a thing like
Right.
that where
Has their own
it'll
thing. Yeah.
it'll
And
kill you.
so she's like, I'll draw you a map later, but like meanwhile, just be careful. And Ken is like, okay, sure. So she gets as she's on her travels, she ends up getting too close to Firehouse and some gargoyles almost burn her alive. But the fire prince, Drustin, saves her. He's the one who said that he bet on her and won the other night. And so he walks her back to safer territory and he tells her some things about the Fey world, including a little about Bloodhouse, which is the used to be the sixth house, and it's now gone. He tells her how fire, void, and blood rebelled against the king 500 years ago before he was born. It failed, and then fire and void like bent the knee, basically, but blood didn't, and they were all killed. Eliminated is the word he uses. Like the whole house was gone. And illusion and
Same
light are the
character
other
because
two who have always served the king.
he's and the king is delusion.
Illusion, yeah.
Illusion, sorry.
Yeah,
He
and
is
then Earth
Delulu
has
too,
always been
but
neutral, which has become a sticking point for the king. He hates that they like never pick sides.
historically they haven't either. So it's like
Yeah,
it wasn't
they
with
never have.
just with
Yeah,
him. They never pick sides.
yeah.
Um it, Justin is an interesting, like from the beginning, he's kind of like even when they were holding court at the very, it's kind of you get the like sense that he's kind of a flirt, that
Hmm.
he's a little bit like and you can't quite, I mean, at least for me at those first
Yeah,
chapters, I was like, I can't get a read on this guy
yeah, for
exactly,
sure.
but he's he is definitely like the most forthcoming
Yes, he gives her a
with
lot of info, and that makes it clear to her too why giving her to Earth House was such an insult. Like now she understands like what that was about. And so he's like, I'm telling you all this as a favor because you won me a lot of gold last night. And everyone else has always died. So like it was exciting. And so like this is your in exchange, I'm giving you this information basically. Like that's
yeah.
what's happening
And
here.
also it's
Huh.
it does kind of leave a super sour taste in her mouth
Yeah.
because here all these people are like so honored and hopeful that they're getting
Yeah.
and it that they've been chosen,
Hmm.
and it turns out that
It's a game to them.
and that they're sitting there like placing bets and watching it like it's entertainment.
And they
So
don't care that they all die every time. They think it's funny. Yeah.
yeah.
So back in Earth House, she runs into Princess Oriana, Laura's mother, and Laura's younger brother. And when the mom finds out that Laura still hasn't accepted Kenna yet, she intervenes. So and she kind of explains to Laura, like, we can use a human servant to our advantage. They can go places and hear things that Fae can't because things are warded against other Fae, but not necessarily against humans. Like nobody is going to pay attention to her, you know? Uh, and so apparently almost all the other human servants have their tongues cut out, which is why that woman who helped her bathe didn't say anything to her. And she's horrified by finding this out.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, the princess turns to Kenna and is like, "You're to have no limits with assisting Laura and helping her through these trials, or else I'll make sure you're sent to the lowest type of servant possible, or I'll kill you," basically. And so Kenna's like, "Okay, well, that's clear enough, right?" So Kenna helps Laura get ready
Like
for this
you
luncheon.
can't lose, you're not allowed to
To fail.
lose here.
Yeah. So Kenna helps Laura get ready for this luncheon it's for the trial participants. It's the first like event of the trial season, basically. And the lunch is at Lighthouse. And Kenna kind of stands against the wall with other servants and starts
It
talking
should
to one
mention that like her job was to get her ready by doing her makeup and also doing her hair.
and picking her dress.
Kenna, well, at least the wardrobe could help with that a little bit, but
Yeah.
Kenna is like ill equipped to
Hmm.
do anybody's hair and makeup.
No.
And Laura ends up doing her own makeup because when Kenna starts, she's like, she looks at Kenna who had done her own makeup and is like, you're not touching my face.
Like, you need to
Which
practice, please. This is embarrassing. Yeah. So she starts talking to this other servant, Aiden, who's from Firehouse, and he's a sprite. And he tells her how the other humans come here. The king sends scouts out periodically to abduct them for either because they're beautiful or they're strong or like just because, like,
Just thinks that
yeah.
it would be fun.
And this makes Kenna furious. And he also tells her nobody really remembers any specifics of past trials. It's like part of the magic. The knowledge about what the trial was or anything just like disappears from their head, basically. People have even tried to like write it down before, and like that disappears too. Like it's just not there. And the heads of the houses know about their own trial thing, but that's it. Like nobody else knows anything.
About their own trial that they're doing this time, but they
Yeah.
don't remember, like they don't have a memory
Or
of
if it is the
past.
same one as before, they wouldn't know that either because they don't know, they don't remember
They
anything.
have no memory.
Yeah. And so all the other trial participants are talking shit about Kenna, and she like mean mugs them, which is like not done by Earth House. Earth House is like neutral in all things, basically, including their facial expressions, apparently. Uh and so that's
It's been
not good.
very Lara's mom had been very like, don't you just don't react.
Yeah.
Like this is how you just don't react. Lara's like, how am I supposed to? And she's like, you don't,
You
you
just
are
don't.
above all
Yeah.
this, you do not react.
Yeah, dead face.
And so
And so Kenna
it
doing that is first of all shocking to them because they're not expecting her to do that. And second of all, like doesn't really look great for Laura because her mom expects her to be, a certain way. Oops. So later, Kenna goes exploring in Earth House and she finds Selwyn, Laura's brother, or he finds her rather. He's happy with how rude she was to the light candidate Garrick, especially because hates he hates that guy, and that guy is always mean to Laura. And Selwyn hates that Earth never reacts to anything. Like that bothers him. He doesn't understand how his mom does that, basically.
yeah.
Uh,
It's their neutrality that has like
yeah,
kept them like saved them and kept them
yeah.
like they've had the high moral ground in that like they didn't support, but they also didn't help anything. And so he, as a 16-year-old, is like, this is
Hate
not,
this. Yeah.
yeah.
So Kenna goes wandering again, and her knife, now armband, keeps like pricking her to drink her blood. And also it's like talking to her a little bit in her head, which is really freaking her out. And it kind of explains to her it lives on blood. She can feed it other blood, like other people's blood, and it's not gonna kill because she's like, are you gonna kill me? Like, can you just drain me? And he's like, no, I'm not gonna kill you. And so she ends up in this kind of dark
You set
hallway.
it up that Dagger's like hungry, and I'm like,
Right.
ew,
Yeah,
that's creepy.
it's a lot. It's a lot, especially if that was like in your head. So she ends up in this like dark hallway, and she goes to hide when people start coming by. And it is people from Void House, including that Fae from the first night who killed the other Fae for the king. And she overhears something about a labyrinth and the next trial. And so then she's like, oh, that must have to do with their trial. So the next trial activity is a party at Firehouse. And she stands with Aiden again, and she learns that the black clad Fae, who she's been seeing around, is Callan, aka the King's Vengeance. He spies and kills for the king, and he knows everything that goes on in Misty, and like, don't even think about him or he'll show up, is basically what people think of him.
If you even think anything
Yeah,
like rebellious against the king, he will know and he'll
yeah,
tell the king, and then you'll get killed. Like it's
right. It's
very
yeah, it's very
it's very
like serious.
concerning, and you better
Yeah.
stay away.
And so also he kind of explains more about the trials testing the Fae virtues, which are courage, discipline, cunning, strength, hedonism, and magic. And then he gives her the inside scoop that the first test is void and it's for courage and it's going to be in total darkness. And so that put together with the labyrinth, she's realized like what the first test is basically, but she doesn't know much about it, obviously.
She doesn't know what it means, but she knows that like this information might be enough to, so she does pass it along because
Yes.
she's like, I'm pretty sure this means something. I don't
Yeah.
know what it means, but
Yeah.
maybe you know what it means.
Yeah, and Oriana definitely does. And there's the Labyrinth of Chaos is an old legend It's where Void once executed their prisoners. Like they put them in there, and there's like monsters in there, flesh-eating nasties, and all kinds of things. And
It's a kind
so,
of
not good.
maze that, like, if you go the wrong way, like it just, you could never find your way out because it's
Right.
just, you can't double back. You can't, because it just keeps,
Yep.
it's chaos.
It's scary. So, there's another formal dinner that night hosted by the king. And during the event, he trots out a bunch of like chained together prisoners, and he makes the heads of all the houses execute them, each in their own like vile way. And the king then has them toast and drink after each one of them is killed. Everyone, she's looking around and everyone is acting like it's no big deal, but she's starting to see some cracks in the surface, including in Laura, whose eyes are horrified, even though she's trying not to show it. And at the end, basically, Kenna has to like run out because she's gonna puke. And so she goes to that same dark hallway and she pukes and she cries. And Callan, the man in black, finds her there. He did see her the other day when she was hiding. He can see into the shadows because he's Void House. And he tells her this hallway was the entrance to Bloodhouse, which is, of course, not a thing anymore. And he's like,
And so she was like, oh, that was not expecting this to be
yeah,
that, but okay.
yeah. So she finally goes back to the party after she composes herself, and she and Laura then go home. And Laura is also extremely upset, and they both, of course, don't sleep very well.
She's also like, don't tell my mother.
Yeah.
Like, just that
Like, don't
she
tell
that
her that I'm upset. Yeah. And she's like, I would
so
never.
it does make me think back to the first day when she threw that. I'm like, all of those outbursts are a no-no.
Yeah.
And you do get the sense early on that from Oriana's like point of view,
Hmm.
that Laura's kind of a,
Weak.
yeah,
Hmm.
or like a disappointment, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And so you can see that it's like, just because she has a soft heart, like it's
Yeah.
not,
It's
she
not a
didn't like
detriment.
watching people
Yeah.
get executed, but if her mom
Like,
finds out
nobody
that she was
should.
upset
And
by
yet,
it, it's
yeah. Yeah. So in the lead up to the next event, she runs into Dresden again, the Fire Prince. He tells her that Earth House cannot maintain its neutrality forever. Eventually, the king is going to stop allowing it, basically. Like, it's been pissing him off for millennia, and he's eventually going to, like, end it. And he wants to know if she hears
this king's
anything.
800 year has been ruling for 800 years.
Yeah.
So like
A long ass time,
his
and he's brutal. And so Dustin's like, so I want to know if you hear anything about Earth changing their position. I want to know about it, basically. And so she's kind of like, she doesn't agree to that per se, but like it's in her ear now. And so the night before the Void trial, Ality wakes Kenna up and takes her somewhere secret. Ality pulls out this key near a blank stone wall, and when Kenna holds the key, she sees like a glowing door. And you touch the key to it and it opens. All through Misty, there are tunnels that only Earth House knows about and can access. It's why they've always stayed neutral, because they've always had access to everybody's secrets, and it's a way for them to keep themselves safe, basically.
so they've also like acted um as like
Advisors,
the voice of reason.
right?
And so if it was revealed that like the reason why they can like advocate for everyone is because they've been like listening in on everybody,
Yeah,
that would be a problem.
big
And
problem.
so
And so the only places that the tunnels don't go is into the actual other houses. It goes under the throne room, it goes into all the other like public areas, and that's it. So they want Kenna to join Laura in the labyrinth secretly to help her by going through this secret door because they found out where the labyrinth is and she can like go up from underneath. Kenna is terrified, of course, but she has no choice. So, she goes and gets ready. The king announces the rules of the labyrinth trial at dinner beforehand, and then Kenna will sneak in later with a box around her ankle with this like magic string, which will mark her way, and then she can follow it back out once Laura gets through.
she is supposed to get Laura all the way through to the end and then retrace her steps
Right. So
and
that nobody
like
knows that
come
she was
out the
there.
trap door again.
Right.
Um,
And so the king, she goes and waits in the catacombs, and she hears through the walls the king announce that it's time, and then Kenna walks into the labyrinth through the secret door, and that is the end of chapter 12. So lots of things happening, lots of characters,
intrigue.
lots of intrigue. Yes, so definitely come back next week, and we'll talk more.
See you then.